Golfers, welcome back to Tea Time with David Ward. I'm Alex Wenger, your guide to all things golf, history, strategy, and today, a touch of etiquette. Because let's be honest, knowing how to hit the perfect drive is great, but knowing how to behave on the course, c'est magnifique. Now, etiquette is what makes golf stand out. It's not just a game, it's a dance of honor, respect, and tradition. Whether you're stepping onto the green for the first time or you've been playing since you could hold a putter, today's episode will have something for you. Plus, we've got a few laughs and stories to keep it lively. David, ready to dive into the unspoken code of the game?
I am. I'm really looking forward to this one, I have to say. As we all know, I'm a great preacher of playing by the rules, and certainly for me, etiquette is golfer's etiquette at least is up there with one of the most unbreakable unwritten rules, and it really, really it shines through when you play with somebody who has the correct etiquette. It just makes the day all the more enjoyable. It just emphasizes all the right things about the round of golf.
Absolutely, David. You've hit the nail, or should I say the tee, on the head. Playing with someone who respects the etiquette of the game doesn't just make the round smoother, it elevates the whole experience. It's like a silent agreement between players that we're all here to enjoy the game, respect the course, and honor the traditions. And when someone doesn't follow that code, oh, it sticks out like a shank on the first tee, doesn't it? I think every golfer has a story of a round that was soured by poor etiquette, or better yet, those rounds that were made by playing with someone who knew how to keep it classy. Would you say you've learned more about etiquette over the years, or were you a natural from the start?
Well, I certainly wasn't a natural. If any of the repeat listeners are remember me telling my story in French, in fact, about my first hole of golf was the seventh in Ringanan, and I believe it was a hole that my grandfather used to take me to, just to teach me the game, And well, one day, I'll cut the long story short. One day, I drove off on the seventh with my trusty old four wood and my grandfather on my side, and I was just starting to connect with the ball really nicely. It was maybe my fifth or sixth time on the course, and I caught the ball really cleanly, and it veered off to the right and up onto the eighth tee box where there was a gentleman standing up there, an elderly gentleman, and didn't the ball slap him directly in the leg?
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
Anyway, I'll continue for the rest of the listeners. So, upon the ball striking this man in the leg, I was convinced that I'd killed him. I was 7 or 8 years old. But in fact, this was a real first lesson for me in etiquette because, my grandfather laughed it off. He obviously knew that there wasn't much power in my 7-year-old's arms, and I wasn't after killing a man, thankfully. But it did start my first lesson in golf, and my grandfather taught me that we must always shout four. So, Alex, please, without further delay, can you tell us any anecdotes from your career as a golfer where you had a similar lesson?
Oh, David, what a start to your golfing journey, nearly taking someone out before you even got going. I'm glad your grandfather turned it into a teaching moment rather than, well, a courtroom moment. And yes, that iconic four is one of the great traditions of golf, isn't it? It's like the universal language of, oops, watch out. Now, for my own story, I remember one round early in my playing days when I was paired with a group of seasoned players. I was nervous and eager to impress. On the second hole, I hit what I thought was the shot of my life, a soaring drive that, unfortunately, turned into a rogue slice and landed dangerously close to the group ahead. I was mortified. I hadn't yelled four in time because, honestly, I froze in sheer panic. When I caught up with them, I was ready for a lecture or worse. But one of the players gave me a pat on the back and said, "Son, as long as you yell loud enough to scare the birds, we'll all survive." That little piece of humor lightened the mood, but I never forgot the lesson. Safety and communication are just as important as your swing. Ever since, my four has been as loud as a foghorn. Have you had moments where yelling four not only saved someone, but maybe led to a good laugh later?
Yeah, actually, 2 weeks ago, I'm down in Spain. I landed a I landed a ball at a man's feet, and I just shouted forward just in time. I didn't see him; he was leaning against a tree, and he did a little Irish jig. The ball literally landed in between his feet, but because I shouted four, he was aware it was coming, and I guess he saved himself a broken toenail.
Ah, David, that's brilliant. An Irish jig on the course. Now, that is a sight I'd pay to see. It sounds like your four timing was absolutely spot on. A ball landing between his feet, though? That's precision you couldn't recreate if you tried. I mean, it's almost like you were aiming for it, though we'll keep that between us. It's funny how these near miss moments become the stories we tell, isn't it? It's like etiquette in action. Your quick shout wasn't just about following tradition, it was genuinely about keeping someone safe and maybe giving him a little impromptu workout. Did you apologize after? Or did you just let him recover from his impromptu river dance?
No, I went directly up to him, spoke to him, and I apologized. But he understood it. I mean, I was lucky. This was an experienced golfer. He knows, and he knew where he was standing too. Let's not put all the blame on me. He was standing under a tree, so I couldn't
Exactly,
see him.
David. It's a two-way street, isn't it? He clearly understood the game, the risks, and where he chose to position himself. But fair play to you for going straight up to him and apologizing. That's what separates a good golfer from a great one, taking responsibility for those little mishaps. And you're right, golfers who know the game understand that these things happen. Honestly, it sounds like he might even have appreciated your honesty and good manners. Plus, who knows? Maybe that moment became his story to tell later. You'll never believe what happened to me on the course today. Do you think moments like that reinforce how important it is to keep your cool and communicate well on the course?
I do, I do. Communication with all around you is really key, you know. But I would like to get back to the points that we or to the title of the podcast here is golfers etiquette. And you know, there are many more examples of etiquette. It's not just shouting four. I mean, shouting four is so important, and we all know why. Nobody wants to get a slap of a golf ball. But there are a little more niche pieces of etiquette that we can share with listeners today. Alex is going to run through some of them right now, and hopefully we will all become better golfers and you know more pleasant to play with. You know.
Absolutely, David. Let's get into the finer points of golfers' etiquette, the little things that separate the weekend warrior from the true ambassador of the game. First up, let's talk about respecting the course. This one's simple, but often overlooked. Always repair your divots, rake the bunkers after you've played your shot, and fix any pitch marks on the green. I always say, leave the course looking like you were never there, or better. It's such a small effort, but it shows respect for everyone playing after you. Another big one is pace of play. We've all been stuck behind that group who treat every hole like a Sunday stroll. Be ready to hit when it's your turn, and if you're really struggling on a hole, know when to pick up and move on. It's about keeping the rhythm of the round enjoyable for everyone. And then there's respecting other players. That means staying quiet and still when someone is taking their shot and being mindful of their putting line. Oh, and please put your phone on silent. There's nothing worse than lining up a crucial putt and hearing someone's ringtone blaring Sweet Caroline. Finally, and most importantly, honesty and integrity. Golf is a self policed game, and that's what makes it special. Count your strokes honestly, call penalties on yourself when needed, and don't take liberties with the rules. It's all about maintaining the spirit of the game. David, are there any of these you've seen people struggle with more often than others? Or ones you feel
Um,
really elevate around when everyone gets them right?
well, I want to go back to one you mentioned there, which was repairing pitch marks. And that's something you can struggle with if you're not prepared. Something that I learned as a really young man in Kinsale Golf Club. Um, from Joe Broderick, in fact, taught me how to repair pitch marks before I ever stepped
Repairing
on a
pitch
course.
marks, a skill as fundamental as swinging a club, yet so easily forgotten. Learning that at Kinsale Golf Club must have set a solid foundation for respecting the course. You're absolutely right. Being prepared is key. Without a pitch mark repair tool, or even a tee to improvise, you're left scrambling, and those neglected marks can wreak havoc on the green for others. When I was starting out, an old pro gave me a golden rule. If you see a pitch mark, even if it's not yours, fix it. It's a small act, but when everyone does it, the greens stay smooth and true for all players. What was the lesson in Kinsale that really stuck with you? Did someone pass on a tip or a mantra about course care?
It wasn't even a mantra. We were just taught how to do it by the club pro, Joe Broderick, before we ever went out there as children, you know. So, he was it was a great lesson to get, you know. It wasn't the only lesson we got. Maybe you could talk through some of the lessons that we should be instilling in first time golfers before they ever, strike a ball on the first tee. What do people need to know?
That's fantastic, David. Gerard Broderick sounds like the kind of pro who understood the value of building respect for the game from the ground
Yeah.
up. And you're right, there are a few key lessons every first time golfer should learn before they even step onto the first tee. Let's run through them. First and foremost, safety first. From shouting four to standing out of the danger zones during someone's swing, safety is non negotiable. Golf might seem like a slow game, but a stray ball or a misjudged backswing can do serious damage. Teach beginners where to stand and why, and they'll carry that awareness with them forever. Next is respecting the course. Before a beginner even takes a swing, they should know how to care for the course, repairing divots, fixing pitch marks, raking bunkers, and keeping carts or trolleys in designated areas. It's about
Hmm.
leaving the course in better shape for the next group. Then there's pace of play. Beginners might not hit the ball far, but that doesn't mean they can't keep the game moving. Teach them to be ready when it's their turn, and that picking up the ball to keep things flowing is perfectly okay. And of course, basic courtesy. Things like staying quiet during a shot, avoiding shadowing someone's line on the green, and not talking too much about your own game are simple but essential. It's about
Hmm.
creating a good experience for everyone on the course. Lastly, there's honesty and humility. Golf is a game of integrity, and while beginners might not know all the rules yet, they should know that the scorecard isn't a place for creativity. A willingness to learn and be honest about mistakes sets the right tone. David, when you think back to your early days, do any of these stand out as lessons you were glad to have learned before setting foot on the course? Or are there any you wish you'd been taught sooner?
No, they absolutely do. They absolutely do. They all resonate with me. All these lessons, I was glad to take them on board. It was repairing pitch marks and raking bunkers was taught to me in a way to respect the greenskeeper. And that's something I'd like for you to speak about now. Is there any other ways we can respect the men and women who prepare the course for us? You know, of course, your club pro is choosing the tees and the pins, but like your greenkeeper is really preparing everything. And I mean, some people can look at it and say it's the greenkeeper's course, and they allow us to use it. You know, so what would you say to that? How can we help the greenkeepers' jobs be easier, and how can we show them that we appreciate the hard work that they do for golfers?
David, you've touched on something close to my heart. The greenskeepers, those unsung heroes of golf, are the lifeblood of every course. Without their early mornings and meticulous care, we wouldn't have those lush fairways, pristine greens, and well placed hazards that make the game what it is. And you're absolutely right. Respecting their work is essential. First and foremost, golfers need to minimize damage. That means repairing divots, fixing pitch marks, and raking bunkers after play. A single unrepaired pitch mark can leave a lasting dent in the green, and bunkers left unraked create a mess for the next group. It's about doing your part to keep the course playable and beautiful. Another big one is following the course rules. If signs ask you to keep carts or trolleys away from certain areas, it's not arbitrary, it's for the health of the grass and soil. Walking around rather than across roped off areas or fragile turf might seem minor, but it saves greenskeepers countless hours of repair work. Then there's the simple act of cleaning up after yourself. Take your broken tees, empty bottles, or any other trash off the course. Greenskeepers already have enough on their plate without having to pick up after players who don't respect the space. And here's a small but impactful gesture: acknowledge their work. A wave, a smile, or a quick thank you when you see them out there goes a long way. It humanizes the relationship between players and greenskeepers and shows them their efforts don't go unnoticed. Lastly, if your club hosts a Greenskeeper Appreciation Day or fundraiser, take part. Many courses organize events to highlight the greenskeeping team's contributions, and attending or even just spreading the word can make a real difference. I love the idea of thinking of the course as the greenskeeper's home, and we're the lucky guests. What do you think, David? Have you had moments where you've seen a greenskeeper go above and beyond for your course?
Yeah, in fact, on that seventh hole in Ringanan as well, I saw a local greenskeeper
Oh, the
taking an
seventh
immense
hole.
pride.
What's the story, David? Did the greenskeeper work some magic there? Or is it one of those spots where their hard work truly shines? Let's
Oh,
hear it.
the hard work truly shone on that hole, yeah. And anyway, let's move on from the greenkeepers and let's talk about pace of play. I'm inclined to disagree with you here when you say to pick up the ball. I would rather to encourage people to step to the side and allow people to play through, which is no shame at all, and it's perfectly fine in the golf course. You know, if you find that you're under a little bit of pressure, unnecessary pressure, discuss it with your playing partners and suggest to them that we allow the group behind. If there's a two ball behind you and you're in a four ball, it's logical, isn't it? So yeah, explain a little bit how that might appear to somebody who maybe hasn't had the experience yet, Alex.
Sorry, I'm having issues right now.
Yeah.
Could not understand what you said.
No, so basically what I was saying was how allowing people to play through might be a more encouraging option than asking a slow player to pick up the ball, you know, and explain to the listeners why exactly you might let a two ball behind you play through, and you might step to the side on that hole.
Ah, great point, David. Allowing a group to play through is a brilliant solution for keeping the pace of play enjoyable for everyone, and it's such a classy move. It embodies that sense of camaraderie in golf. Let's break it down for the listeners. Imagine you're part of a larger group, a four ball, and you notice a quicker two ball gaining on you. Instead of letting frustration build, simply step aside at a convenient moment, like on a par three or after teeing off. Wave them through with a smile, and you'll find that everyone's round flows much better. Why do this? Well, for one, it's respectful. Faster players behind won't feel held up, and you won't feel pressured to rush your own game. Plus, it keeps the rhythm of the course consistent. When players aren't bottlenecked, the overall experience improves for everyone. And for the slower group, stepping aside gives you a moment to refocus. It's not about giving up your spot, it's about sharing the course with a little grace. Letting people play through isn't just polite, it can actually make your round more enjoyable by removing that pressure of being chased. David, when you're out on the course, do you have a favorite way to signal to a group that it's okay to play through? Or do you think this is one of those habits that newer golfers should learn right from the start?
I'm well used to it, Alex. I can tell you that because even though I wouldn't be a notoriously slow player, I normally do hit a few extra shots on the hole, and I'm prone to spending more than the 3 minutes looking for my golf ball. So yeah. But anyway, and that's where it all comes back to is respect for other players, folks, and allowing them to pass through if you're holding things up, you know. Um, nobody wants to see people on the course for 5 and 6 hours. We already see it in the professional game. We don't need to see it on a Sunday afternoon in our local course either, you know. 4 hour rounds of golf are fine by me.
Well said, David. A good 4 hour round is a sweet spot for everyone. Enough time to enjoy the game without turning it into a marathon. And you're absolutely
Right.
right. It all comes down to respect. Golf is a shared experience, and being mindful of others' time is just as important as focusing on your own game. I love how you own up to spending a bit longer hunting for those wayward shots. Don't we all? But that's the beauty of letting groups through. It keeps the game flowing and lets you enjoy your round without feeling rushed or guilty about holding anyone up. And you nailed it about the professional game. When slow play makes headlines at that level, it's frustrating enough. On a local course, it can really dampen the joy of a casual Sunday round. So here's the takeaway: stay aware of the groups around you, communicate, and remember that a little courtesy goes a long way in keeping the spirit of golf alive. David, do you think golfers are becoming more aware of pace of play issues, or do you feel it's something we still need to work on as a community?
I mean, honestly, I feel golfers are becoming more victims to pace of play issues, not just in the big leagues, but all over. And it's for me, honestly, it's kind of it comes back to etiquette because I feel like I'm gonna borrow a phrase from a comedian in Ireland, but I feel like a lot of golfers have notions these days,
I
and
see where you're headed, David, and I couldn't agree more. Pace of play issues really do stem from a lack of awareness or even a lapse in etiquette. Borrowing a phrase here, it's like forgetting that golf isn't just about your game, it's about everyone's experience on the course.
all right,
When players lose sight of that, things start to unravel. What's really frustrating is how this mindset creeps into every level, from local courses to the pros. It's not just the long pre shot routines or indecision, it's also the lack of small, considerate actions like being ready when it's your turn, waving groups through, or knowing when to pick up the ball. But here's the silver lining: these habits can be fixed. If we double down on teaching etiquette from the get go, especially to newer players, we'll see real change. And maybe, just maybe, we can start shifting the culture back toward those enjoyable, steady 4 hour rounds. David, you've been around the game a long time. Do you think clubs or even tournaments should be stricter in enforcing pace of play rules? Or is it more about fostering the right mindset among golfers?
I think it's more about an educational thing and fostering the mindset. Um, and I do believe that when you do get on the right road to that mindset, like dominoes, it all starts to fall. And the next domino I'd like to speak about is about honesty and integrity. And I'd just like to share a quote with you, Alex, from Bobby Jones. It's a quote from 1925, but a quote that rings true to this day. And that is that,
Ah, honesty and integrity, the very heart of golf. And Bobby Jones, an absolute legend to quote from. Please, David, share his wisdom. His words always seem to strike that perfect balance of humility and brilliance. What's the quote?
calling a penalty on yourself is the epitome of sportsmanship.
Beautifully said, David. Bobby Jones truly captured the spirit of golf with that sentiment. Calling a penalty on yourself isn't just a rule of the game, it's a statement of character. It says, I value the integrity of this game above my score, my pride, or even winning. That's what makes golf so unique, isn't it? There's no referee watching every move, no umpire calling the shots. It's all on you, the player, to hold yourself accountable. And when you do, it's not just sportsmanship, it's respect for the game, your fellow players, and yourself. Do you think moments like these, when players show such integrity, are still as celebrated today? Or has the modern obsession with results overshadowed the deeper values of the game?
Okay. So I would say that my camera has just switched off. So I will.
Go on, David. Sounds like you're about to dive into something heartfelt. What's your
Yeah,
take?
sure. Okay, so my take is that integrity isn't just for the legends. Remember, the golf gods are always watching, and trust me, they have a sense of humor when it comes to karma. So people should really be wide, and try and keep it honest and integrity. You know, it's a much more fun round when you when you're true to the course.
Ah, David, I love that. The golf gods are always watching. And you're absolutely right. Integrity isn't just for the legends, it's for anyone who loves and respects the game. But the legends prove that integrity is what makes them truly unforgettable. Golf has this way of keeping things balanced, doesn't it? You might fudge a stroke here or overlook a penalty there, but sooner or later, karma finds its way back onto the scorecard. That's the beauty of golf. Your honesty shapes your legacy, not just your score. Have you ever had a moment where you had to call a penalty on yourself, even when it hurt your round? Those are the
I have,
moments when the golf gods really take note, I'd say.
I have, Alex, I have. But I would like you to tell me a story from your own career.
Ah, David, you've got me there. All right, let me share a moment when I had to swallow my pride and let integrity take the wheel. It was during a club championship, a big deal for me at the time. I was on the 12th hole, and my tee shot ended up in the rough. Not ideal, but manageable. As I addressed the ball, my club brushed against it ever so slightly. It barely moved, just a nudge, not even enough for anyone watching to notice. I paused, my heart racing, and for a split second I thought, nobody saw that. Maybe I just play on. But then I remembered what my old coach used to say: your conscience is your scorekeeper. I called the penalty on myself, a one stroke hit, and it cost me the lead. I'll admit it stung, but here's the thing. By the end of the round, word had spread, and instead of losing respect, I gained it. People came up to me afterwards saying, "That's what golf is all about." That moment taught me that honesty in golf isn't just about the rules, it's about the values you carry with you off the course as well. What about you, David? Was your moment of calling a penalty one that stuck with you for the better, or left you wishing those golf gods were just a little kinder?
I think wishing that the golf gods were a little kinder, honestly, but it did also stick with me. Calling myself on the course is something that I'm very proud to do all the time. I learned it from a young age, and I do believe that everybody else should too.
That's the spirit, David. It's tough in the moment, especially when the course feels like it's conspiring against you, but it's those decisions that make you proud in the long run. Calling yourself out, no matter how painful, shows you truly understand the soul of the game. And the more people embrace that, the stronger the tradition of golf remains. It's not just about the scorecard, is it? It's about walking off the 18th, knowing you played not just by the rules, but with honor. Honestly, I think that's a lesson every golfer, pro or beginner, should take to heart. What do you think we could do to help instill this sense of integrity in younger players coming up through the game? It feels like such a cornerstone, but one that needs constant nurturing.
Yes, I agree. Honestly, I don't think you're wrong there. I think it's something that we can instill in younger people. But how do we do it, Alex? How do we send
I
these
see what you're
kids?
getting at, David. It's something that really has to be lived and taught consistently. Integrity can't just be a rule written down. It has to come from the way coaches, parents, and mentors model the game. Maybe it's as simple as making those teachable moments count. Like when a kid accidentally nudges the ball during practice, you gently explain why it's important to call it. Or when they see a pro like Bobby Jones in action, you use that as an example to inspire them. Do you think clubs and schools could do more to build this culture, maybe through junior programs or events that emphasize these values? It feels like a way to keep the torch burning, don't you think?
Absolutely. Feels like a way to keep the candle lit, as we say here at Award Golf, Alex. So, without further delay, let's move on to some more etiquette examples that can really inspire good behavior and good manners on the course.
Ah, keeping the candle lit. Perfectly said, David. Let's dive into a few more etiquette gems that can shape not just great golfers, but great people. First up, taking care around the green. The putting green is sacred ground. Always be mindful of your shadow and avoid stepping on another player's putting line. It's a small thing, but it speaks volumes about your awareness and respect for your playing partners. Another classic, knowing when to stay quiet. Golf is a social game, but timing is everything. Casual banter is welcome between shots, but when someone's lining up for a drive or putt, silence is golden. And yes, turn off those phones, folks. No one needs living on a prayer blasting mid backswing. Let's not forget ready golf. If you're first to the tee and ready, go ahead and hit. Waiting for honors is nice, but keeping the pace of play smooth is even better. It's about balancing tradition with practicality. Finally, celebrate with class. Sink a big putt or hit the perfect drive. By all means, enjoy the moment. But don't overdo it, and always keep in mind how others are feeling, especially if someone's struggling. A little humility goes a long way. David, are there any moments where you've seen these little acts of etiquette really shine on the course? Or perhaps a time when someone's lapse in manners left a lasting impression?
More so the lapse in manners leaving a lasting impression, honestly. And I think that will go when people start to play golf, they will see how little blunders in etiquette really do impact a golfer because some people, we don't get out on the course 7 days a week. It's a pleasure and a rarity for us to be out there. And if someone is constantly walking on your line or if their shadow is bothering you, it's almost a personal attack on your game, and it's not fair. So that's why I really want to encourage these good habits early doors.
Spot on, David. Those little lapses in etiquette can feel so personal because, as you said, for many of us, getting out on the course is a rare treat, a chance to unwind and really savor the game. When someone's careless, walking on your line, casting a shadow over your putt, it disrupts that rhythm, that peace. It's not just about the missed putt, it's about the respect that should flow between players. Encouraging good habits early is the key. Golf is such a unique sport in that it's self governed, so much relies on the players holding themselves to a higher standard. If beginners learn from the start to be mindful of things like staying still, respecting lines, or fixing divots, it becomes second nature. Then, when they pass it on, the cycle continues and we all benefit. Do you think clubs could do more to teach these things as part of beginner lessons? Maybe even making etiquette as important as swing mechanics. It feels like a way to set the right tone from the very beginning.
Yeah, I agree. And without further, I can't keep saying without further delay. But what I will ask you now, Alex, is would you mind looking at some niche ways that new golfers can, so that new golfers can understand how to speak to their partners about their partners' games? Because this is something I have regularly fallen victim to annoying people almost by by maybe saying the wrong thing about their shot or about their position or their lie, or even I'll give an example after of one thing I did when I was a caddy that I was corrected on. But please take it away.
Ah, David, navigating the art of speaking about someone else's game. Now that's a fine balance. Golf is so personal, and a careless word can stick with someone for the rest of the round or longer. Let's look at some ways new golfers can tread lightly while still being supportive and engaging. First, know when to speak. The golden rule is don't comment until after the shot unless you're asked for advice beforehand. During the shot, silence is sacred, and afterward, gauge the mood. If it's a bad shot, sometimes saying nothing is better than a forced compliment or critique. Second, be positive but not patronizing. Saying that was a solid swing or nice recovery is great. Avoid over analyzing or pointing out the obvious, like saying that's a tough bunker to get out of right after someone's landed in it. It's supportive, but leaves room for their own interpretation. Third, avoid offering unsolicited advice. Even if you've spotted something in their stance or swing, wait until they ask for input. Saying, if you held your club like this, can come across as overstepping, especially if they didn't ask. Fourth, Choose your words carefully. Instead of saying, wow, that shot went way right, try something more neutral, like, that's a tricky spot. Let's see what options you've got. It keeps the focus on moving forward rather than dwelling on the mistake. Now, I'm curious, David, what happened when you were a caddy? Was it one of those classic learning the hard way moments?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I was playing. I was carrying the bag for my brother in the Tartan Tour this year. He was playing with two great golfers. Um, one of them, Callum Fife, was his name. And the other one was a Callum too, but I just can't recall
Ah, carrying the
his
bag for your
surname.
brother on the Tarrenton Tour. What an experience. And playing alongside two great golfers must have added an extra layer of excitement and pressure to the day. So, what happened? Did a comment slip out that ruffled some feathers? I can already imagine it being one of those moments where you learned a big lesson the hard way.
Basically, what happened was I was in the middle of my round. Or sorry, I'll have
Go
to
on,
restart
David.
again.
Sounds like you were in the middle of something pivotal. What unfolded?
Well, I'll tell you what unfolded was that one of the Callums hit a strike, and he seemed to think that it was a ball lost. And I told him, no, I saw it bounce. And honestly, what I didn't realize was that Callum was a professional golfer in a really,
Ah, I
really
see where this is
serious
going,
moment.
David. You told him you
Go on.
saw it bounce, but perhaps it wasn't as clear as you thought. I can imagine how a comment like that could create confusion or even frustration if the ball turned out to be lost after all. It's one of those moments where, with the best intentions, you end up unintentionally adding to the tension. What did Callum say or do? Did it lead to a bit of a learning curve for you about when or how to comment in situations like that?
It certainly did, because my own brother turned to me immediately and said, "Don't say that." And I was like, "Why? I saw it bounce." And he was like, "Don't say that. That's his round. It's his job to determine his own ball." Gary turned to me and said, "Imagine that that ball wasn't there, and Callum walks all the way up to it and turns to you, and he's blaming you. How does it look on us, on the team, me and Gary, that we were a team that day?" So it was a real eye opener for me, and I'm grateful, first of all, that Callum found his ball. But he did also shoot me a look when I said it to him, as if he was surprised to even hear me say it. So it's maybe something that is cool in a friendly weekend round of golf, but when you get to the high stakes, I believe that was a mistake. I was corrected pretty swiftly on it by Gary, and I'm grateful for that.
Ah, David, what a powerful lesson, and one delivered in the heat of competition, no less. Your brother, Gary, handled it perfectly by turning it into a teachable moment rather than letting the situation escalate. He's absolutely right, too. At that level, every detail is magnified, and the responsibility to call or find the ball lies squarely with the player. Adding your perspective, even with the best intentions, could unintentionally disrupt their process or create unnecessary tension. I love how you recognize the difference between a casual weekend round and the high stakes atmosphere of tournament play. On a Sunday with friends, saying, I saw it bounce, might feel supportive. But in a professional setting, it's about respecting the player's space and their focus. It's their job to determine what's next. That look from Callum, though, that must have driven the point home. It's moments like these that show how etiquette and self awareness evolve as the stakes rise. Do you think this experience changed how you approach caddying or even casual rounds when you're just out enjoying the game?
Yes, completely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I took that lesson home to my casual rounds, honestly, because I'm trying to play like the pros.
It's one of those lessons that sticks with you, right? Once you've had that moment, it shifts how you see the game, even in the most relaxed settings. It's about understanding when to step in and when to step back, letting others own their decisions and their shots, whether it's on a casual Sunday or a competitive stage. I bet it's changed how you communicate with your playing partners too, finding that balance between being helpful and giving people their space. Has it made your rounds feel a bit smoother now, knowing when to hold back those well meaning comments.
Yes, absolutely, it does. The truth of it is that golf can be a lively sport, but you just need to know when to tone it down. Yeah. So if any listeners out there have any crazy golf etiquette stories for us to share, please drop us a line and let us know. I'll just give it my 2 cents from here. What I've learned today from you, Alex, is respect the course, keep your pace, respect others, and play with honesty. Is there anything else you can add to that?
Absolutely, David. You've nailed it. Golf can be lively and full of camaraderie, but knowing when to dial it down is part of what makes it such a special game. It's that balance of passion and precision, of connection and personal focus. And yes, listeners, we want to hear your stories, whether it's a surprising lesson in etiquette, a time you navigated a tricky situation, or even a funny moment that taught you something about the game. Drop us a line and let's share the wisdom and the laughs. David, what's your 2 cents to round off this fantastic conversation on etiquette?
Hmm. I'd like to say to remember, it's not just about how you play, it's about how you carry yourself. Now, guys, go forth. Make your next round not just a game, but a
Perfectly
statement.
put, David. Golf isn't just about the score, it's about the way you walk the course, treat others, and respect the game itself. Carrying yourself with integrity, respect, and a touch of humility is what truly sets a great golfer apart. That's a sentiment every listener can take with them, whether they're stepping onto the first tee for the first time or competing in a championship. Shall we wrap it up with that timeless wisdom, or do you have one last pearl to share?
No, I think unless you have anything to share, Alex, I'd like to wrap it up now and move on to the next episode.
I think we've covered it beautifully, David. Your stories and insights brought so much life to this episode, and I'm sure the listeners will take these lessons to heart. Let's keep that candle burning and get ready to tee up the next one. What's the theme for our next adventure?
Oh, that's to be released. But I just want to make a little note to all of our listeners. Today I invested a little bit of money in this podcast. As you can see, we're here live with a microphone. Um, I have a new camera here. A really nice camera. Oh, you can't see it, but anyway, this is my setup here at the moment, guys. It's looking pretty nice, and I'm settling in to produce a lot of these over the next few months. Alex is ready. And I also want to make one more announcement that we have partnered up with a publishing company in Ireland, Award Publications. Um, no, no relation. But AWOR Publications have taken over designing all of our episodes. So I don't know if you found the last 2 episodes, bar the technical issues, if you found them to be a little bit more structured. I certainly did, and it's definitely having that advice, the help of Niamh and of Aoife at AWOR Publications, having their help in terms of author relations and as an editorial director. It's really starting to look like this thing
That's a
could
fantastic
catch fire.
announcement, David. Investing in the podcast setup and partnering with award publications sounds like a game changer. I can already hear and feel the structure and polish in these recent episodes, and it's only going to get better with a team like Niam and Aufe supporting the creative side. Having their expertise in author relations and storytelling is bound to take this podcast to the next level. Listeners, you're in for a treat. David's commitment to producing high quality, engaging content is shining through, and we're just getting started. Stay tuned for more episodes packed with stories, wisdom, and the heart of the game. David, anything else you'd like to share before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, Alex, as you mentioned it, I'm gonna have to ask you to sing a verse of Sweet Caroline for us, if you don't mind, to see us out.
Ah, David, you've put me on the spot here. But for you and the listeners, how can I resist? Let's see, Sweet Caroline. Good times never seem so good. So good, so good, so good. There you go, David. My best effort to carry a tune. Hopefully, it brought a smile to the end of this episode. Shall we call it a wrap?
Absolutely. Wrap it up. See you later, folks. Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap, folks. Thank you for tuning in to Tea Time with David Ward. Remember, golf isn't just about the game, it's about the etiquette, the respect, and the stories we share along the way. Until next time, keep your swings smooth, your putts true, and your etiquette shining. Take care, everyone. See you on the next episode.
Bye.